today I want to share 3 strategies with you for ensuring that A, you don't get divorced, but B, that you and your partner are able to build a business that works for both of you for the long term. Hey, Chris Schwab here. I want to talk about an important topic today, which is something that almost every entrepreneur I've ever met goes through at some point, but isn't one that's talked about too much. So we all often get together and we discuss our major business goals or milestones that we're hitting and what we eventually want to achieve with our businesses. But when we talk about these together, we're often talking about them in terms of sacrifice. People are sacrificing relationships and family time, or they're sacrificing their health because they're working all the time on the business to achieve this huge goal. And the result of this, I find, is often that people have relationship difficulties because they're so hyper-focused on the business goals, it's to the exclusion of everything else in their life. And this can often lead to breakups or a breakdown in relationships, or it can even lead to a divorce if you can't pull yourself back from the business and set some healthy boundaries around it. So today, I want to share 3 strategies with you I think are particularly helpful for ensuring that A, you don't get divorced, but B, that you and your partner are able to build a business that works for both of you for the long term. Because that's what we're really doing this whole thing for, right? Money and business success is a tool for something greater in our lives that we're doing, but I think we often lose sight of that. I'm just going to share these 3 strategies with you that have helped me and have helped other students and clients that I've shared them with too. Let's get started with the first one. The first strategy that I think is very helpful is kind of a high-level meta strategy, and that's sitting down with your partner and defining what your life goals are together, what those shared goals are together. We often kind of have individual goals that we might want to hit. You know, maybe you're a jogger and you want to hit a certain 5K run time, right? That's an individual goal that we have. We often have business goals that we set with our partners or by ourselves that might be, you know, $100,000 a month in revenue in your home service business, right? That's a big popular one I see a lot of people want to hit. We have our business goals, but we also have our shared life goals with our partner. That might be retiring at a certain age to a certain country. It might be the number of kids that you want to have. It might be these big relationship goals that you've set for something that you guys have wanted to do together for years. But I find when we enter business as a couple, often the business goals take front and center stage in the business and in our relationship too. So by sitting down and actually reconfirming and clarifying your shared life goals together, you can put into perspective how important the business goals is versus the other important goals that you have. Just by doing this and doing this regularly, I typically recommend every 3 to 6 months, you can ensure that the business goals, if temporarily they start to become more important again, you can put them back in their proper place and their proper perspective, and you can ensure that you're making progress in all your goals. So consider sitting down with your partner and actually concretely defining on a piece of paper what those goals are, and then you can work towards all of them rather than just the business goals. The second one I find is almost equally as helpful is defining your specific work-life boundaries around the business, around what you're willing to sacrifice and what you're not willing to sacrifice. So for me, I have certain business goals for all of the companies that I run, but they're within a wider context of what I want out of life. I also have health goals. I also have travel goals, and I also have financial goals, right? There's different areas of my life that I have goals for. And I find that when my business is prospering and growing, I just automatically shift to being totally focused on that. But I'm not willing to actually sacrifice the other things in life. So what I've done is I've developed a personal system, and this will be different for you than it is for me, but I've developed a personal system of work and life that allows me to ensure that I'm not going too far into one direction to the exclusion of others. So one that I find talking to new entrepreneurs, particularly their first 2 years in business, is they feel very lonely because they've stopped hanging out with their friends or their family because they're spending all their time on their business. This means they're out of balance between their business goals and their social life. They've given up their social life for business success. And I think this is not the right way to do it. So you can set a personal work-life system up for you, which includes your boundaries and what you are and are not willing to sacrifice. To give a concrete example of what I mean, health for me is just as important as business success. So I spend several hours a day working on my business, but I also spend several hours a day working on my health practices that I do consistently. And so sometimes these come into conflict. Sometimes there's a business call that a potential client might want me to take, but it's typically at the time that I do my workouts. Now, I might make an exception for a team member or a manager in my company who really wants my help at that time. But aside from that, I will actually say no thank you to the business opportunity if they're unwilling to schedule to a different time that does work for me. I'll actually say I don't want your business and I don't want your money because it would impact my health, and that's not right for me. I've actually made a prioritization system which prioritizes health in equal measures to business, but when they come into conflict, I will always choose my health. Because if I don't, I will suffer for that, and then later on the business will suffer anyway because of my poor health. I try and keep a wider context in my own work-life boundaries and what's important. I do that by creating a prioritization system, but I also do that by setting out a daily workflow that I use. What hours I'm gonna work, when I'm gonna take breaks, what times I'm gonna work out, what times I'm gonna eat, and so on. And I try and follow that as closely as I can. So ensuring that you have a specific work-life boundary and workflow that you use each day and each week will go a long way to ensuring that you're able to work both on your business, but on your health and your relationships and with your partner to ensure that everything stays in balance. And the third and final strategy that I want to share with you is actually taking a fitness concept called a deload week and applying it into our businesses and in our lives. In fitness, in weight training specifically, typically every 4 to 8 weeks, most weightlifters will take what is known as a deload week, where we'll actually reduce the sets and reps that we're doing by about 50 or 60% for about a week or sometimes 2 weeks, so that we give our body a chance to recover. We're still doing the necessary work, but at a much lower intensity, so that when our bodies come back fully recovered, we can start the next round of 4 to 8 weeks much stronger than we were before. I actually advocate taking this fitness deload approach and doing it with our business and our lives as well. This is something that has been very successful for me for a number of years now, where I'll actually clear out my calendar, I'll clear out my meetings, I'll reduce the tasks on my to-do list every 4 to 6 weeks to about 50% or less of what it normally is. And then I will take that extra time and extra energy that I was spending on business, and during those 1 to 2 week periods, I'll actually spend more time with my partner. I'll spend more time on my health. I'll spend it catching up on sleep. I'll spend it seeing my martial arts instructor here in Japan, something I like to do, but I don't get to do as often these days. So I'll actually take all that extra time and energy and make sure that I'm catching up in the areas that I may have neglected in the previous few weeks. So this is another concrete strategy that you can use to ensure that you're not suffering and your relationships are not suffering as you build this business. We have to make sure that we're taking a long-term perspective on a family home service business and make sure that we're remembering the family part of that and not sacrificing that for the profit or business success part of the equation. Both are important and they have to be in balance with each other, because if they're not, you or your partner or both of you are going to suffer, and you're not going to want to be doing this for the long term. I hope these 3 strategies make sense to you and are helpful. If you have strategies that you'd like to share around spouses, around dealing with conflict in relationships, around making sure that your family business works for you long term, I'd actually really like to hear what those are. So please comment below, because I'm always looking for tips as well that can help me grow in my relationships and in my business. So thanks for tuning in. I really hope this video is helpful, and I hope to hear from you soon.